Welcome to the Mental Vet Investing Podcast with your host, Mike, where I talk about investing strategies with a frugal foundation from a veteran's perspective and to invest in self-mental awareness to ultimately become free of bad money habits and stay financially independent. Episode 3. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode. Do you side hustle? Should you side hustle? What is a side hustle? That's what this week's episode is going to be all about. And the reason I wanted to dedicate a series, a show to this is because side hustles is another way that you can get money accumulated or save up some money to flip it around and invest that money into yourself or your business or whatever you plan to do. So what is a side hustle? It's something that you do on the side of what your primary income source is. You know, whether you have a job, you're active duty, or you've got a pension, if you're lucky enough to have a retirement check, maybe a disability check, whatever. You have a source of income, whether it's a W-2, wage, paycheck to paycheck income, or anything else. It's your normal source of income. Side hustle is what you're doing off the side. And it can be a very powerful tool to have that is built into that foundation that I've talked about in my previous episodes of frugal, being frugal, having a frugal foundation. Because the idea is that you get money saved up. You live below your means, as I was talked about more or less in my last episode, and you start to have this money accumulate. Side hustles is just another thing to do. They could be a variety of different things, right? And I think most people know, but just because I feel it's important enough to have it clear that side hustles can be doing an Uber, Lyft, doing those food delivery apps that a lot of folks are somewhat doing now. Podcasts, right? YouTube videos. Maybe there's a certain niche you're involved with or a service you provide that is something that you do off the side. Maybe you're an artist, maybe you have an art skill and you're doing things on the weekends or after work or before work, and maybe you're making a little money on the side. Now, out of those things that I've listed, there's something significant to determine about that or among them. And in today's episode, there's basically 3 points that I think you should come away with when we talk about side hustles. But among those things that I was referring to, like doing YouTube videos or doing podcasts takes a while. You're not going to see an instant return on money. That's for sure. It takes a significant amount of work. This podcast I'm doing, I actually have to sit down and write out a little description of what I'm going to talk about so I keep on point. And then try to record, see if I sound good, see if I don't, edit this and that and the other. And, it could take up to a couple hours. And it's a couple hours out of my personal time on weekends that I'm sacrificing from the family. So, when you're talking about side hustles, happiness, right? I don't mind doing it because podcasting seems to go pretty good with what I do anyway. I talk to myself all the time. You can call that mental instability, whatever you want to call it, but it's something I've always done. And so I might as well put a microphone to myself. So when I do these things, it's kind of a side hustle. But I enjoy it so far. Whereas an Uber, you get signed up, you got to do a background screening, you do all these credit or background credit, not credit, but the background checks. Once you get that passed, you can start making money. You take your app, whenever you get hit up on the app, you go pick someone up and you get paid, right? And those food delivery apps are starting to become popular. I know where I work at, where we used to work, it's the coworkers used them all the time. And those guys are making money. So the side hustle that I did is me and my wife did it together, and it was something that was more or less a hobby, right? We would typically buy outdated or used furniture items, whether it be Craigslist, Facebook, money market or market, the market selling marketplace on Facebook. Offer up, we buy furniture cheap. For example, we would get an antique chair. I've picked one up for like $5 or $10 before. Bring it home, and throughout the week we strip it down. We strip all the old paint off, sand it down, fill in the cracks, restain it or repaint it or reupholster it, whatever the type of furniture is. And then we would turn it around and place it back on OfferUp or back on Craigslist or Facebook. And we would sell it for, I think, usually around $50. It just depends on what type of antique chair we've got. I think the most expensive chair we've sold is like $80, but the parts and materials that went into it was around about 20 to $40. So we're making about 20 off of one chair in an example. Now, again, that's a labor intensive thing, but it was more of a hobby for us. So doing that did a number of great things, right? One, it was spending quality time with my wife, which we enjoy doing. Now we always have to coordinate the kids. Are they busy? Are they not? Getting somebody to watch them or keeping them entertained. And then we go out in our garage, and then we set up a whole shop over the months that we've been doing this. But we start doing that, and we work on it together. We put it together, and then we go and set up like a little studio, a makeshift studio to take pictures and then post it online. And we would take weekends and go out shopping early in the morning, hit up a bunch of places off of Craigslist or OfferUp or whatever, and start looking at these furnitures. And we made it a day event, and then come and have a little lunch together, enjoy the day, and then plan out how we're going to reupholster whatever the furniture is, and then brought it back. And that's what we did. So we started doing that, more of a hobby at first, and then we started to make it like a mini business. This was all pre-pandemic, pre-COVID. Once the COVID hit, that pretty much was it for us. I mean, we just didn't feel comfortable continuing that because you had a lot of interaction with strangers, obviously. I believe we did a few here or there, but once, March or April of last year, 2020, we pretty much stopped. And just real quick, one last thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe, as I'll keep putting podcasts out on YouTube just to help further spread the message of living as a retired veteran. Now, the money that we were making with that furniture stuff, in the beginning, what we were using that for is our go out dinner funds, right? I ended up making a separate account, went to, I think, California Coast Credit Union or one of those type of credit unions, where you can start to build a good credit with them, which we later used to refinance an automobile that we purchased. So, all kinds of good stuff there. But I started the account, and we directly deposited that money into that account. And then that was the money that I used to continue further furniture repairs. So one of the key things that I picked up on was, whenever you're starting anything, like I also started a small moving business before I bailed out of that one because the obviously moving furniture ripped me up pretty quick. I've explained what that was in my previous episodes, but just real quick. And one of the other things I did was when I first retired out of the military, I signed up to like one of those Uber things, but it was for pickup trucks. And it was like, I forgot what they were called. I can't remember, but basically the idea is you sign up, you do a background check, they inspect your vehicle, you download the app, and then, whenever someone needs something picked up and dropped off, they would hit up the app, and then you either accept it or you don't. And I was doing that, and I was making some money. What I liked about it was I didn't have to really interact with a lot of people. I had just retired, and I was still trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with my life in regards to what is my attention? Because one of the biggest problems with military transitioning into civilian life is especially if you made it a career. But I would say anyway, if you do 4 years or 20, it's still the same. When you're in the military, it's 100% of your focus, you know. And now all of a sudden you're out. Where do you shift that focus? So I did that, and then I decided to make it my own thing. So I started learning how to do businesses, and I did my own business name. I started making cards. I made up a website, and I started posting my moving service. And in the beginning, it was fairly simple. Well, not simple. It was easy to do. I would pick up light things from like a Costco or from Home Depot and then drop it off for somebody. And a lot of these people were, older folks, or some of them were college students. But quickly it became, hey, I want to move my house. I want to move 2 houses and, take this heavy couch or bedroom set from upstairs and downstairs. And I couldn't do it. It was like, oh, hell no. So, but what I did during that time is I created a separate account, learned about business a little bit, started to read up on LLCs and things like that. So what I ended up doing for this furniture stuff that me and my wife were doing, we made a separate account. So as we did I think the first thing I ever did was we bought this kitchen table with 6 chairs. And it was actually I think I was getting rid of it, or somebody, somehow I came across this thing and we were going to just throw it away. But I got, bored one weekend and I started sanding it down, replacing some of the legs to the table, and came out really good. And as a matter of fact, I said, you know what, let's throw this thing on OfferUp. So that table was all profit because I already had all the materials already to sand it, to paint it, to stain it, all the stuff I already had in my garage. And we sold it for $100. So bling, there's another light bulb. So what we did is started doing that again and again. And we found a little tiny niche within that of antique furniture. Once we had it a certain way and we repainted it and reupholstered it, we found that like during the springtime, and this would have been in 2017 and 2018 and even into 2019, we found that there was a little niche for the antique furniture, right? So we used to, like during June, July, all the way through to August, we would buy one and refurbish it and have it ready for the next weekend, and would boom sell within that weekend quick. Then we got into a dead spill where we had to start finding other things to try to do, and then it would pick up again. But anyway, back to the point here is that was one side hustle that we were doing. So you can sit there and think to yourself, excuse me, that's too much work for me. I'm not wanting to do all that. But the way we were taking it was fun in a way. Yeah, sure, it's not 100% fun, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed fixing things up and being proud of what you made, and even being more proud to hear comments from people that buy it and say, man, this is so nice. Oh, you actually redid this and that. And we were pretty good with whoever we sold it to. I would always offer them, hey, if this ever breaks, or, the stitch is coming down, or for whatever reason, because we're not professionals, bring it back and I'll fix it, and luckily we've never had that problem. So that's another type of side hustle. But maybe you're not, you got to find what interests you. What is your niche? And that kind of brings me to my 3 main points that I mentioned earlier. 3 main takeaways from a side hustle, in my opinion. The first one is find your niche. What is it that you can do as a side hustle? Are you, buy things off of, Craigslist or OfferUp, and then flip them around and sell them for more after you fix it. I even met a guy when I was doing that moving stuff for a while, that he had a pressure washer, like a little compressor and a water tank that he bolted onto a trailer. And on weekends, he went around and cleaned people's cars, and he was making good money. I ran into him, and he says, yeah, I'll do your truck for, $120, detail it and all that stuff. And he goes to your location and cleans the vehicle. Another guy I met, actually ran into when I was doing a walkout inspection on another rental property, and the tenants had all their dog feces in the back. One of them, one of the lovely things you deal with when you have tenants with pets. And I just didn't have time to clean it. Normally that would be something I would just do, but I forgot why I had to go and look for somebody. But I found this guy, Poop Scooper RS, or I don't remember the name of this. And he charged me, it varies on the size of your yard, but I think I ended up paying him $100. Well, this guy rolls into my house, well, the rental property, I believe it was a Corvette, a convertible Corvette. And I'm thinking, this guy's got the wrong house. I mean, and so I went out there kind of not confrontational, but I went out to meet him, and it's like, bro, you got the wrong house. He goes, no, I'm here to pick up your dog shit. And I said, oh, you're Pooper Scooper RS or whatever. He said, yeah, man. I said, wow, that's a nice red you got. He goes, yeah. I said, what do you do? And that's what he did. It was a side hustle for him. And also ultimately, once you start making decent money, you have to claim that on taxes. And he ended up going legit and made it a business. But he was telling me he was getting upwards of 100-something thousand a year. Now he had multiple houses and he did a few other side gigs too. It wasn't just the poop scoop, but he said his main income was the poop scoop. And if you started thinking about it, you're like, that's not a bad gig. I mean, if you got the way to dispose it and you can stomach the poop from different dogs and different varieties of breeds and different situations. But think about how many people don't like to do that. Elderly folks that don't go in the backyard and want to mess with that. Hell, I know plenty of family members who don't even want to go out and pick up their own dog feces, and they make their own neighbors' kids go and pick it up when their own kids are at home and they don't even want to do it. I mean, so when you start thinking about that, it's like, oh yeah, I could see that. So that's another, opportunity. But so that find your niche. Second thing is that income that you get from that, make it a separate account. And then if you need to grow your side hustle or grow it into a legit business, use the money you've already made. Don't pull out of your own personal savings because you're just throwing more money away into it. Obviously, you got to start up first. You got to put something down up front to get going. But once you get that first sale or that first amount of money in there, put it away, right? And then continue on. Hopefully you can pull from that you've already made and continue to buy more and invest into yourself, obviously is what I'm saying. But make a separate account because it's easier to do that for you. If you're just putting it back in your pocket or put it back into your bank or whatever, you can more than likely easily spend that. Third thing is growing it more into a business if it does become something like that, which I kind of said in the step 2, but the step 3 is it still making you happy? And what I mean by that is that side hustle something that you are starting to dread doing, and then it just quickly stops, fades away, and you don't continue it? And that, I guess that will kind of go back into the first thing is, what is your niche? You got to find something that you're kind of passionate about, but like again, a podcast. I've noticed as I've been getting into the podcast world here, lots of folks that I've been listening to, you can tell they're passionate about what they're talking about. Hopefully I can come across that way too, but I can tell that, okay, they're talking passionately about this subject. So obviously they're enjoying it, and it's could be considered like a side hustle because it takes quite a bit to start earning any kind of cash, on these podcasts, and especially YouTube. You got to have 1,000 subscribers before you can get monetization. And obviously what's nice with podcasting is you get monetized right away. So that's kind of nice. I've already, but it takes time. It's going to take a long time. It just depends on how you attract your audience. So what is the niche? What's something that you can be passionate about and putting that money aside. But to start wrapping this whole subject up, with my podcast, I'm starting to build up towards my investments to show you guys how I'm able to do what I do as a retired veteran, right? If you're not retired or you're not familiar with the military, maybe you don't have that source of income, but hopefully you've got some source of income where you can start thinking about investments. But for veterans out there, if you're collecting any type of money, whether it be disability or whether it be your pension check, how are you living with that as we speak now? If you're someone that had already put 20 plus years into the military, how are you spending that money now? Are you going back out there and getting a government job or any type of job and working another 40 hours a week, right? With a W-2 paycheck, getting taxed, right? Also, by the way, you're getting taxed on your retirement check. If you live in the lovely state of California, could be quite a bit of that check going to the state of your retirement check. So, the purpose of why I wanted to start podcasting is just to share what I'm doing, because I'm getting smarter with the money. What I'm doing is I'm using what's already in place. The government puts all these taxes out there and these tax rules, and as of right now, it's tailored for investments, right? Because when you invest in an asset or a property or even in stocks and so forth, there's things you can start to do if you're structured correctly. For example, an LLC or S corp, which I'll explain later. You structure yourself properly, you can utilize those loopholes or just the basic tax structure to your benefit. Whereas a W-2 check, you're working your butt off and you're getting taxed, and you're paying that in the end, especially if you're putting in overtime. That's more tax they take from you. So, all of that starts, in my opinion, from a foundation up front, like refocusing your mind, reshifting your thought process, what you were trained to grow up with before. You need to change that to better yourself. And side hustles is just another brick in that foundation of living frugal and living financially smarter, right? And it actually can be something really beneficial. So I hope that I kind of trigger something in your mind, or if you already have a side hustle that you're doing, hit me up, right? Let me know what you're doing. But I think it can be a very powerful tool indeed. Even if you don't want to invest, again, I am not a financial specialist, so please, don't take my my gibberish talking here to heart, serious. But I'm telling you, just even if you want to just start saving money, because what we did with my furniture rehab stuff is that was the money we solely used to go out and have dinner nights. Go out once a week, usually a Friday or a Saturday. We would always. I lived in San Diego, so going down to the beach, buying a plate of tacos and a couple beers maybe or whatever was just wonderful. And I'll tell you, that feeling you get when you're pulling out of that credit card that you set up, you're not touching your own personal money. It is a great feeling. So just that in itself, is really beneficial if you think about it. So hopefully, you can start looking at that and think of ways that you can start profiting. And again, with the COVID, hopefully it passes soon, but hopefully some of the apps I've used, like I said, OfferUp was a big one that I've used. We used to use Let It Go, but they've kind of combined together. Craigslist, I started using there, but Craigslist is always shady, and as the biggest places I was selling and buying stuff was OfferUp and Facebook, bar none. That was the most popular ones. You start to build your history on those, and you can kind of tell when you're looking at someone that's been on OfferUp for a couple years and they have a lot of stars and a lot of good comments. Then you can kind of guess, okay, they're going to be legit, And it's true. I've never had one bad experience on OfferUp, other than someone not replying to my message, or maybe I've had one or two people that were not on time, but I mean, nothing bad. So yeah, other than that, side hustles. So another piece of that overall foundation to build up some money to then decide, hey, what am I going to do with this money? So as I get into next week's show, I'm going to start getting into what I've done, and more or less the main thing for me is the real estate, what actually comes to manufactured homes. So I'm going to talk about the stigma to all that, the real nuts and bolts of what that is as far as how I do it. And hopefully from that you can take, well, maybe it's something I'll do or maybe not. All right. Until next week, guys. Hopefully everybody's doing healthy and doing great. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Take care.